I think that if God is all loving, then he probably wouldn't want his creatures to suffer. And so I think that the fact that they do suffer makes his existence less likely.
Okay, perfect. And is there some specific...
I myself, I think I don't know what you consider myself, but I think what it most likely falls into is like agnostic. The reason for it is, I know it sounds a little bit like a cheap goat that I'm like, I don't want to commit, you know, but it's like, if you like see from my view, my point of view, how I looked at the world, right? It is for me very presumptuous to say 100% that there is a God, but also very presumptuous to say that there isn't. The reason why I say this is because if you just look at how the universe is built and how everything is done, okay, the likelihood that there isn't a being out there somewhere in space, okay, or whatever you want it to have, yeah, that is higher than us is so unlikely, dude. Like, once you like understand how big space is and how everything kind of like works and shit, it's so unlikely to me that there is not something that is just beyond our understanding, okay? And you can call this thing whatever you want. You can call it God, you can call it aliens, you can call it, I don't know, the physical, what is it called? Laws. The laws of physics. You can call it whatever you want. There's just some things that go beyond our understanding. And there's probably a lot of things that we're never gonna get a grasp on it. And wait a second, I lost my fucking thread.
And so I think that the fact that they do suffer makes his existence less likely.
Oh yeah.
Okay, perfect.
The suffering thing. Now, here comes the suffering thing. If we're assuming like that God is about also like giving, like the way God is portrayed, he sometimes is a little bit of a father, sometimes he's a little bit of a tyrant, sometimes he's a little bit of a leader, sometimes he's more like wisdom, you know. And for me personally, in my life, my argument that I would say that there is suffering from, if there is a God, my argument would be that from my experience, people don't grow if they don't suffer. Most people, they go through life and they just stagnate and they don't have like real character development over years, decades. Yeah, I've seen this in like my friends, I've seen this in some family members, I've seen this in a lot of, you know, places. Like, people need pain to grow, they need the obstacles to overcome shit. And that is my so kind of justification for why this kind of stuff happens. You know, it's part of the learning process. You know, and if the whole thing about God is that you want to have like that, you should have free will, but you also should try to be your best self so you can like go to heaven or whatever eventually. I think that kind of, it makes sense in that context. I feel like that if you frame it that way. That yeah, you go through all that shit. Those are like trials, basically, and you are tested if you can overcome this shit. If you know what I mean. That's kind of how I would see it. So I disagree.
And is there some specific aspect